Cache-maniacs.
GeoGearHeads.
I'm the bad cop, back for the 73rd episode, Randomize XII. This is another GeoGearHeads Randomize episode where Daryl W4 and I talk over a whole heapin' helping of subjects in a single show. Most of them submitted by you, our audience members.
Yeah, so many that we might not be able to get through all of them in just one episode. Most of these were actually emailed to us at our GeoGearHeads@CacheManiacs.com address. We got some through Google+, but sadly none of them came to our voicemail line at 206-350-3647, which is what we really like, since that way we get to hear them in your own voice. If you have anything to share on anything we touch on during this show, call in your feedback to that 206-350-3647, or write it in to us at that GeoGearHeads@CacheManiacs.com, or just even drop it to us through social media.
That and anything for our next couple of shows. Now, my friend Goblin Dust will be here next week for episode 74. I've done a few of his caches and really look forward to learning a little more on how he makes those. Then we're talking with Chilihead for episode 75 about his Intercache web app. It's a whole new tool that allows cachers to easily create interactive geocaches, somewhat like Where I Go, but right from the smartphone or tablet. Send in your comments or questions for either one of these shows, or watch them live as we record them through the Google Plus Hangout on Air, which streams right to YouTube. Now, we record at about 6:10 p.m. Eastern or 9:10 p.m. I'm sorry, that's 10 p.m. I've got it all backwards. That's 6:10 p.m. Pacific, 9:10 p.m. Eastern. There's no 10 o'clock in there at all on Thursday nights. It is always Thursday nights. That one I've got down.
Oh, that's good. This is why we keep events in our schedule, so that we can remember when we're recording these.
Wow. Am I red? I don't know what time we record here. Okay. And you can find the link for the stream through Facebook, Google+, Twitter, or even right from that silly website that we have.
Yeah, and if you are in need of the events, we do post the events to Google Plus as well, and that way they're right on our calendars so that we can remember what we're recording and when. But we would also appreciate it if you share the GeoGearhead shows. That might be just letting your fellow cachers know about the show, or even submitting an iTunes review. Of course, there are many ways we'd love to hear what you're doing to spread the geocaching love through the GeoGearheads show. And last week we heard from 3 people. One of them got a geocoin. Fortunately for the remaining 2, we haven't heard anything else from anyone else, so those 2 will be getting that 2011 Daryl W4 and Firefly 03 geocoin that I promised. And we'll go ahead and pick one of those right now, which is a 50-50 chance, and it's going to be the Wooden Radio, who's been on before too. So, hey, congrats, and make sure you email me your email address, or your mailing address, actually. Can't email geocoins yet, but
there you go.
That would be nice. But
just
email
a picture. We can email that to everyone.
Well, that we can. But email us with your mailing address so I can get that geocoin out to you. We also have an extra coin going out to one of the contributors in this show, and we'll get to that after we go through the submissions. But just a reminder that I'm going to be giving away 2 more of these coins in the next couple of weeks, so make sure that you let us know what you're doing to share the GeoGearHeads love, and we will put you in, and you might actually get one of those last 2 coins.
Daryl, you are so generous. Now, if you want a picture of the coin, send us your email. We'll send you off a picture of the coin. That'll be absolutely free. No, maybe we shouldn't do that. Anyway. Oh, boy. Now, it seems our last show on streaking, and I mean streaking is finding geocache, has resonated with several folks. As a result, it's brought more feedback than I can remember. Daryl, I have to admit a certain level of jealousy when talking about geocaching streaks. I just may have to start one just to see if I can.
Yeah, it's got me thinking about attempting a 100-day caching run, since mine was much shorter than that. But yeah, there's some of those challenges that want 100, so it seemed like a good round number to try for.
Yeah, I agree. Well, you get into that triple digits, it breaks you into a whole new category. We got feedback from one of our listeners, Lafitte FL from Florida. He says, hi, GeoGearHeads. I just finished listening to episode 72 with Casey Smiths. His story really struck a chord with me, and I found myself vigorously shaking my head in agreement as he told his story. New Year's Day, I completed a streak of, are you ready for this? 555 consecutive days with a cache find. I'm amazed, okay? He goes on. Like him, I did not start out to be a 366 days in a row. I was fortunate enough to have done this on a leap year, though. I was trying to complete a 30-day challenge, and at about 12 days, I thought, how can anybody do this? It's crazy. But when I finished, I had learned that there was a 100-day challenge, and I decided to have a go at that. About day 50, I almost threw in the towel when my wife suggested that I give it another week to see how I felt. Somewhere around day 60, something switched, and it became automatic. Instead of thinking about today's cache or tomorrow's, I was planning ahead 3, 4, and 5 days. This journey took considerable discipline, especially in getting just one cache and only one cache, and that's close to your normal routes. When new caches would publish, I couldn't run out and get the series. I'd instead think, this one would be good for a Tuesday afternoon on the way home, or this one would work good on a Wednesday morning on the way to work. Like Casey Smith's, I used far more gas than I would have ever imagined. Like most people who try this challenge, you find very quickly you're driving further and further out of your way while somehow trying to convince yourself that an extra 15 miles on the way home isn't really that far out of the way. I felt fortunate that I live in Florida, as the weather is generally cooperative. The only time I found myself caching in the snow was over a Christmas holiday visiting family up north. That's when I learned that a normal pen doesn't write in 18-degree weather. Soon a space pen was added to the bag. It also required a certain dedication. For instance, I did find myself out caching on two separate tropical storms, trying to grab in between the bands sweeping on shore. I don't know why I bothered with the umbrella. It was useless in 50-mile-an-hour winds. Holy cow. But that's not the worst, Daryl. He goes on. And perhaps my craziest moment came when I had to be admitted to the hospital for a biopsy. I'm a cancer survivor, and I had a little scare. And I mentioned to my wife's amazement that I'd like to get to the hospital 45 minutes early because there's a cache in the parking lot, and I think I can keep the streak alive. Things turned out fine, and the streak continued. Finally, to my amazement, I hit 366, but found I wasn't ready to just stop, so I started to look for an out strategy. Eventually, I realized New Year's Day was exactly 555 days, and I knew that would be the perfect day. What an adventure. I'm glad I did it, but unlike your guest, I don't think I'll ever start up again. Thanks for the show, Lafitte FL.
Well, that was quite a feat, Lafitte. But man, good to know that you didn't have any issues with that biopsy. But yeah, the 366 was one of those things that a lot of people were considering. Most of the people I know were really big on trying to get that leap day cache so that they could at least get the every calendar day challenge stuff done, which I did as well. And that's what kicked off mine, is when I had 5 days in a row that I had to do. I was like, well, I got to do 5 days anyway. Let me see how long I can take this.
Without a doubt. Now, I had already done the leap day. I didn't realize it before last year, but it was a lot of fun. I am nowhere close to filling up my calendar, so I think I may have to give it a shot and see if I can do 5, 10, 15, 20 days.
Yeah, well, hey, if you actually pull off the full year, at least you'll have everything filled in the calendar.
Then I'm done geocaching?
Yeah, well, once you've done that, you don't have to do
Okay.
any more caches.
Okay, I found them all.
Yeah, well, it does feel that way sometimes. Yeah, we have to drive quite a distance at this point just to get any new caches that we haven't found.
Yeah, I loved Lafitte's description that you're trying to convince yourself that 15 miles out of your way isn't really that far.
Yeah, indeed, especially because that's longer than I drive to and from work daily. So
Exactly, me as well. So it, that's one of the things that I look at and go, really is. I don't know. I can talk myself out of that consecutive challenge pretty easily, but I need to try it just to see if I can.
yeah, it's certainly worth a try. And again, it's one of those things that you have to do at least once to see what it's like and see how far you can take it. Mine ended earlier than I would have liked, and that's one of the reasons why I'm thinking of trying it again.
That's right. Well, have you ever cached in a hurricane?
No, I have cached
Or
in
tropical
snowstorms.
Yeah.
Yeah, my worst one was caching in a foreign country during like a nasty winter blizzard condition where I couldn't even see the GPS in my hand because the snow was coming down so hard. But boy, that was so much fun caching like that. It turns those 1-1s into like 5-5s.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Yeah, and it made all those lamppost heights we were finding over there, entertaining.
That's one way to make a lamppost cache entertaining. To cache in a blizzard.
It is. Well, why don't we change subjects, though, and move on to feedback from Jersey Eric, who asked, you might have addressed this briefly in a recent episode, but can you explain why people drop their trackables into an event when they plan to retrieve the trackables back after the event? I'm referring to trackables which the person owns, does not want to release to others, but simply wants others to log as discovered. I first thought that people do this to make it easy for others at the event to enter a discovery log, but others still need the tracking number to log. So what's the real purpose? Is it just a way to advertise before the event that, hey, my trackable will be at this event, and if you attend and think my trackable seems cool, make an effort to discover it when you actually attend?
Well, that actually worked for me one time. It was when Geo Woodstock was here in Washington State, so that was Geo Woodstock 8. And by the way, that was exactly 2 years ago, wasn't it?
It was. Actually, no.
No, 3.
3 years ago now, yeah.
Yeah, we're at 11. I missed one somewhere along the way. Anyway, I looked at the list of trackables, and one of them was the original can of beans from the original Geo. What is it? Geo Stash. The Stash Hunt.
The original Stash.
The original Stash. Thank you. And I thought, I've got to go see that. So that was one of those that, I saw it in the list and go, oh, I really want to see that. I'm glad to know it's here. Other than that, not so much.
Now, my take on this, I really don't know why people are doing that, but it seems like that might be a throwback to the way it was when many of us got started in caching before you had the option to dip trackables, to do that visit log. So the only way that you could put a trackable in for mileage or to show that a trackable actually attended an event was to actually drop it into the event and then to pull it back out. So I think some people have kind of done that as the, habit. I've done this for years. This is what I'm going to do with it now. Mm-hmm. But I'm thinking, it could be in large part the advertising, and sometimes I think it's more of a, I'm dropping it here to make sure that I remember that I need to go to the event and pick it up. So I really don't know, but right. It's a personal preference.
I agree with that. And geocoins are a huge draw for some people. So that
absolutely.
Could be a form of advertising that, hey, look at all these coins that are going to be here. You've got to come here and discover them.
Yeah, okay. Absolutely. And some people will actually note in their logs, here are some of the trackables I'm bringing for discovery. If you want to find them, make sure to find me or something like that. Mm-hmm. But, things like name tags, you pretty much know aren't going to be there to be swapped. So...
You don't know. You could find another Daryl W4 at an event.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and another part of it though is it's not uncommon that we'll have someone who doesn't log correctly the trackable, and instead of doing a discover, does a grab log. So we have to go and retrieve it from them anyhow. So again, it might be just one of those, I might have to go and do this anyway, so I might as well drop it into the event, and then I just know I have to go and grab them all, a week after the event.
Yeah, that's true. And I, often get the event coordinator sending an email out saying, hey, you got to come grab your coins. I'm, archiving this event.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, although I'll tend to just archive those now anyway, since the emails go out to the holders of any of the trackables, or the owners of those trackables, and tell them that the event was archived, and that usually serves as a good enough reminder. Now we got another one. Shall we move on to?
Oh, go ahead.
Well, we got another one from Stevens Ad Infinitum, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced that.
Ad infinitum is how I've always pronounced it.
Okay, we'll go with that one.
Okay.
Which came in through Google Plus, and they asked, I would like to know what creative challenges people are doing to keep geocaching interesting. I'm hovering just under 1,000 finds, and find myself looking for lonely caches, challenge caches, and caches with high favorite points or difficulty terrain ratings. What are other cachers doing to keep the cache fires lit?
Well, I would suggest go on a geocaching streak. That seems to work.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of different types of things that people are doing. I know some cachers who would go and binge cache, essentially. They'd go and do things like the ET Highway, and then they'd go on a month hiatus from caching just because they'd burn themselves out, or go and find as many as they could in 4 or 5 weeks, and then they'll go cold for a while. It's one of those things that right now I'm more interested in quality caches. I'm doing more of the puzzle caches and stuff. Just, it's different, and I've run out of other things to do. But I hate to say it, a lot of what keeps me going in podcasts or in geocaching is the podcast. As much as the podcasting takes time away from geocaching, it also helps to keep my interest in it.
That's true. So perhaps listen to podcasts, and start looking to see what other people are doing. What keeps me interested is going on interesting cache hikes with others. So around here we have a thing called the Cache Machine that launches every quarter. Exactly. And it's easy on these cache machines to get 100 caches in a day. So you can really, rake up the caches there in one day. But recently I've been doing hikes to historic caches. So if you're doing like a Jasmer challenge where you're trying to fill out finding a geocache each month since geocaching started, that helps in that. But going up there with the groups of people, just spending 2-3 hours hiking with a group of cachers really allows you to get to know them, and I find that to be a lot more fun.
Yeah, absolutely. It depends on what you like to do. If you like geocaching for the social aspect, then those events, the outings are a great way to get involved and stay motivated. If you're more the type that likes the hiking, find some of those great hikes and do those. But there's so many different aspects that it really is a very individual thing, I think, to say what keeps you going. But we'd love to get your feedback on what keeps you going, or maybe even what some of your caching friends have shared with you that was motivation for them. Again, we'd love to hear those in your own voice by calling our 206-350-3647 line. You can record it on your smartphone or computer and send that in to us by email, or just write us, and that's GeoGearHeads@cachemaniacs.com. And of course, like we got this one, you can contact us on Google Plus or even Facebook and Twitter, and we'll share that with the rest of the audience. And let people know, because it really does help a lot of people who are getting a little burned out, which I can relate to keep their cache fires going.
So the next question is a bit more technical. And I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Woolrab got an email from a couple of Pocket queries that ran last night and completed. So I pulled the one of the new ones up on my iPhone to see some of the updated coordinates, since there was a series of puzzle caches and I wanted to see how they mapped out. When I looked at the map, none of the caches had any of the updated coordinates I had entered. I checked the older PQ, and sure enough, the same problem was there. So I was wondering who I could ask or where I could go to see if Groundspeak had a problem with the PQs or if anyone else was seeing the problem. Basically, where are the best online watering holes for geocachers? When I asked about the app he used, Wait, this doesn't seem to be...
Okay. So I asked him which app
there.
he was using, and he
gotcha.
said, I was looking for a GPX file on my iPhone, or I was loading a GPX file on my iPhone using the geocaching.com app. Pocket Queries links on the main app page. And since I saw the same problem with two different Pocket Queries run on the same day, I figured it was a problem at geocaching.com. Well, there's a few different things here, but let's address one thing first. And we touched on this back in the... I'm totally blanking on my favorite caching app. Oh, the Geosphere episode. When you run the Pocket Queries through the live API, you're not actually getting the GPX file. What it's doing is it's taking an index that was used to generate that GPX file and pulling the live data. So it's coming in a different way than the GPX file does. But that said, the app has to support those updated coordinates, so that does make a big difference. And which app you're using will make a big difference too. In this case, he's using the geocaching.com app, so about the only thing I could suggest is to go to the geocaching.com forums, and I'd probably, for something like this, start with posting in the app threads and get some ideas there. There's other threads you can post to as well. But one of the advantages of having one of those third-party apps is they tend to have a little bit different community than you get on the geocaching.com forums. So you can post a thread in one of the geocaching.com forums and in the third-party forums for that app and get a whole lot more and usually better feedback by having the two different communities post back and a lot more help. Now, the way that we tend to do it is a little bit different because we're into the social media thing and we have some good communities going. And usually when I have a problem, I'll just post something quick out to my geocacher circle on Google Plus, and I get some really quick, good answers back.
That's right. So social media is a great place to do it, whether it be Google Plus, Twitter, even Facebook. There are some good groups on Facebook to help that. But I really agree with Daryl. Go to the forums on the specific apps. So if it's a third-party app, there's where you're going to find the biggest help, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the big advantages to those, you'll very, very frequently find that the actual developer is active in those forums, and they'll have some insight that you might not get from a normal user, someone who's more familiar with things like the live API. If it weren't for talking with the developer of Geosphere, I would not have realized that you're getting live data, not the GPX file. I just assumed that when you requested the Pocket Query, you were getting the GPX file. And there are ways that developers can just request that GPX file as well, but it's typically nicer if you're actually grabbing the live data since it has any of the new logs, and if supported, you get those updated coordinates still. And I do the updated coordinates on the site quite frequently. We've talked about my workflow before with Evernote for doing the puzzle caches. And when I do the puzzle cache, I'll put the updated coordinates in on the geocaching.com site so it carries over into all of my apps. Now, one of the things I wanted to try and hadn't had a chance was to actually go in and from one of those apps from one of those caches that I've done in the geocaching.com app, see if it actually shows up as an additional waypoint or something like that, because that was my first thought, is it's showing the initial waypoint, and then you have to select the final waypoint or the updated coord as something else in the app. And I have not played with the app nearly enough since the last major update.
Right. I was thinking the exact same way. There's got to be some way to toggle that updated or waypoint. I don't know what language is used, but there's got to be a way to toggle that other coordinate in there.
Yeah, it could just be that the current version has a bug as well, and you'll find that kind of information from the forums. And that's the quickest way to find that is through the forums. They'll tell you when something is wrong really quickly.
Without a doubt.
Geocachers tend to be a little bit more tech savvy than your average computer users, and they're very vocal when stuff doesn't work.
That's true. Now, you could open up the PQ on your computer. It's just a text file. Search for the cache name and see if there are updated coordinates in your PQ and make sure they're actually there. But that's
and there's multiple tags in there. Yeah, there are multiple tags in there that you'll have to look through. And I believe that the actual coords for the main location are the ones that get updated in the GPX file. And that's the other thing that you can try, unfortunately not with the geocaching.com app so much, but with just about any of these other apps, you can actually go download the GPX file and try the GPX file, and that's a good way to I wouldn't say necessarily easily, but to double check that it's a problem with the actual GPX Pocket Query engine somewhere in there versus something that the app isn't pulling quite as expected. Is that if it shows up with the correct coords that way, then you know it's just the app not pulling the right information out of the live API or hiding it from you in some other way.
Right. Did we mention go try another app? There are several free apps that you could download. Load your Pocket Query into there and see if it's showing up there.
Yeah, definitely a great way to go. It's always nice to have backups anyway. Backup tools. So things like looking for cache is one that I like. There's also GeoBucket, and both of those are iPad already. So if you have the iPad, it's I keep those on the iPad largely for that reason. But they're free. They have ads, but they're free, so it's not so bad, and you can just keep it around as a backup. But that was actually his second question. He actually emailed us a little earlier
work better for you.
With another one. So do you want to read us his first question that he emailed us?
So, okay. So again, from Wolrab, I hope I'm saying it right. This is the question for the next randomized show. If I'm able to determine where the final location of a puzzle is without solving the puzzle, is that a legitimate find? Also, how do you feel about people finding puzzle caches in groups where usually there's only one person who actually solved the puzzle and the rest are just benefiting with that easy find? Thanks for the podcast. Been listening since Beta 01, Daryl. Beta 01.
Awesome. Now, I got to say, to me, it's largely a social activity, and there's a lot of geocache puzzles that I can't solve, so I have no problem with people finding in groups, and I highly encourage that. So to me, that's a great way to find. I don't necessarily have a problem with people finding caches other ways, as long as they've put in some effort. One of the problems that we've got here is people will dirty cache or muscle caches. If they have enough of an idea of where it is, they'll just go search every obvious spot, and that takes an awful lot of work. I don't really condone that, but they're putting in the work. They found the cache. To some people, that's not cool. To other people, that's cool. As far as I remember, and I don't think that this has changed, the geocaching.com guidelines on it pretty much state that if you sign that log, then it's a fine. So it's one of those that you really don't have anything to stand on if you go and delete the log and say you didn't find it the right way, because they did find the cache, and that's all. Address, I'll get that in the mail right away. Don't forget to check the Cacheamaniacs website at cacheamaniacs.com for more on the GeoGearHeads, including show notes for this and all of our episodes. We love hearing from our listeners, so leave us feedback by calling 206-350-3647, by emailing geogearheads@cacheamaniacs.com, or through social media. Your support helps keep the Cacheamaniacs shows coming. Please consider making a PayPal donation through the link on our website. GeoGearHeads is produced by Chris Offenauer and Daryl Wattenberg. This show is copyright 2013 by Daryl Wattenberg. All rights reserved.
Cache with a Cacheamaniac.